Hello and welcome to today's episode of Piano TV. So I often run into parents who are eager to get their children into piano lessons, but they don't have musical education themselves. And this creates a problem because it makes it difficult for them to help their children practice. So as parents, it's usually pretty straightforward to help your child with spelling, with math, things that everyone's learned. But with music, it's a whole different story. So I created this video to help out the parents of piano beginners. And if your child has been playing piano for more than a year, that's going to be beyond the scope of today's video, but this should still serve as a good primer to give you the basics. So let's get started. There are three components to reading music. You got to read the rhythms, you got to read the notes, and then you have to interpret what you read onto the keyboard. So we're going to talk about all three of these today, and we're going to start with rhythm because rhythm's the beat of music. So if you've ever danced or if you've ever tapped your toes to a groovy tune, you're noticing the beat. And it's usually the easiest piece of the puzzle for people to understand at first. In some ways, rhythm is the most important element of music. You get all the notes right when playing Twinkle, Twinkle, but if your rhythm is off, it's unrecognizable. And since basically every human has a concept of math, I think rhythm is a great first starting point. In many ways, music is math. And for the most part, it's really easy math. You usually don't have to count higher than 4. And the most complicated it ever gets is when we start getting into fractions. But we're not even going to deal with that today. We're just going to do simple counting up to 4. There are 4 basic types of notes that a student's going to learn in their first year. And that's the quarter note, the half note, the dotted half note, and the whole note. And all of these notes get a different amount of counts. Quarter notes get 1 count. So I'm going to put on a drum beat and I'm going to tap along. And every time I tap, that equals 1 beat. Very easy to follow along. Every time I'm tapping, that's 1 beat. We can go fast, or we can go slow. Quarter notes are going to be the baseline in your child's first year. The most important thing with these notes is to keep them steady. No matter what the speed is, you don't want them to gallop like horse hooves or stutter like Morse code. We want these notes to be all steady and equal. Half notes get 2 beats. So if I put on the drum again, I wouldn't tap each beat like we did with the quarter note. I would tap every 2 beats like this. The best way to keep track of this is to count to 2 like this. 1, 2, 1, 2. Some teachers will have young children say half note, or ta-ah, ta-ah. And these are all just different ways of accomplishing the exact same thing. For kids in their first year, the biggest thing to watch is that they're actually stopping at the half notes. There's this tendency to just kind of like power through them as though they don't even exist and as though they're the exact same beat as the quarter notes, to go jingle bells without stopping at all. But you want to think of these kind of as yield signs. You don't need to stop, but you do need to pause before continuing. Once you understand quarter notes and half notes, the other 2 are really, really simple. Dotted half notes are held for 3 beats. So you could do this, you could say out loud, 1, 2, 3, or half note dot. I always encourage children to say the counts out loud when they're learning, whatever it is, if they're saying 1, 2, 3, half note dot, whatever it is, because if they don't say it out loud, they often forget if they're just doing it in their head. And whole notes are simply the longest count. You have to hold the whole note for 4 counts by saying 1, 2, 3, 4. Some kids are taught to say hold a long time, which is pretty cute. So whole notes are basically the stop signs of music. And for the most part, you'll see them at the end of a piece or at the end of a section. Okay, so far so good. You understand the 4 main types of counts. So now let's talk about the other important aspect of rhythm, which is time signatures. Roughly about halfway through almost all of the main method books for children, you're going to start seeing these stacked numbers at the beginning of a piece, and they're usually in 4/4 or 3/4. You might see 2/4 as well. These are time signatures, which sounds complicated, but the concept is really simple. Basically, the bottom number, 4, represents a quarter note, and the top number is telling you how many quarter beats are going to be inside of every one of these bars. These are bar lines that just kind of divide up the notes neatly in equal rhythms. So as you can see with this 4/4, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 quarter beats in that bar. And here, there's also 4 quarter beats, even though this isn't a quarter note. If we remember how many counts it gets 2. So 1 plus 1 plus 2 equals 4, and so on. And then you can see the same thing in 3/4 time. Here's a note that equals 3. Here's 1, 2, 3. Here's 1, 2, 3, and so on. Music tends to be based on patterns and repetition, and having the same number of beats in each bar gives our ears this pleasant feeling of symmetry. If there were 4 beats in one bar, and then 5 beats in another, and then 7 beats in another bar, it would actually make us feel uneasy as listeners. If we were dancing along to it, we wouldn't even know where to step and where to move. So virtually all music will have one set time signature for the whole thing, and it won't just kind of change at random. And if it does, it'll tell you and it'll be clearly marked. Anyway, if the piece is in 4/4, you should be able to do some really simple math and see that each bar does, in fact, add up to 4. It's honestly like such easy math that 6-year-olds can do this without any trouble at all. A quick note on 3/4 rhythm though. When a piece is in 3/4, every single bar adds up to 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We already know that. That's easy. But it's really common for kids and adults alike to struggle with this time signature. See, there's this tendency to add a pause at each bar line, as if the bar line's kind of telling you to halt. That ends up transforming the 3/4 rhythm into 4/4. It's almost like there's a tendency to want to turn the note at the end into a half note instead of being the quarter note that it is, to go da 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 da. If you're helping your mini musician practice and you notice that they're stopping at the bar line in 3/4 time, yielding like they would if there was a half note there, help them pretend the bar line isn't even there at all. I usually just play the part along with them, and once it's in their ear, they know what it's supposed to sound like and they can follow along. They're then usually much more capable of playing in 3/4 time on their own. Okay, so now you're all up to speed with rhythm. There are 4 main types of counts, and the time signature simply tells you how much every bar in music is going to add up to. So now it's time to actually read music. One thing you might notice in the beginner books is that they'll always start with learning how to read the rhythms, and then they evolve into how to find the different keys on the piano, and then finally it gets into reading sheet music. So I thought it would make sense for us to go in that order as well. By and large, the most common way of figuring out what all the different keys are on the piano is to use the alphabet. If you've looked at your child's music books and you see notes labeled A, B, etc., this is what I'm talking about. The other system, which is far less common, is called the solfeggii system. This is basically where they learn do, re, mi for the different notes. I personally find this system to be really confusing. I mean, basically all kids already understand the alphabet, they understand the order of it, so I find that it's more helpful to leverage that knowledge instead of teaching them like an entirely new system. Though the keyboard looks like a giant slab of notes, there are actually only 7 different notes in total before they all start repeating themselves. If you include the black keys, there's 12, but kids aren't going to be bothering with those in their first book, so we're not going to worry about that either. So let's just look at a couple notes in the middle. The white key that sits right beside the group of 2 black keys right here, and then there's another one over here. If I press them both, they make the same tone. The only difference is this one's higher than the other one. And if I count all the keys in between this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you can see that there are 7 different tones on the keyboard. So since there are 7 different notes or tones before they all start repeating, we give each of these notes an alphabet letter. We do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, 7 letters for 7 notes. Music alphabet, very easy. So which letters correspond to which keys? Well, if you have a full-size piano, which most people do, it's really easy to figure this out because the very lowest note on the piano is an A. Very beautiful sounding. From there, you can easily name every single other note by going in order, just like the alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then it starts again. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And you'll notice the A's have the same tone, and they're all in the same spot, kind of in this set of 3 black keys. All A's look the same. We can do the same thing with C's. A, B, C. Here's a C right there before the 2 black keys. That's a C, that's a C, that's a C, that's a C. They all copy each other. Most kids pick up on this pretty fast. You'll probably notice that whatever book they're using, there's going to be a big emphasis on a note called middle C. Middle C is the C that's the most in the middle of the keyboard. And it's essentially home-based for most kids. If they can find middle C, they should be able to figure out every other key as well. Like going up from C, we have D, E, F, G. Going down from C, B, A, G, and so on. So now you've got your rhythm all figured out and you know where all the letters go on the keys of the piano. So the final step is to put that all together into reading the notes on the music staff. The second half of most beginner method books are entirely dedicated to this process, and it usually goes very slow to give children a chance to slowly learn all the different notes. They usually start with just 1 or 2 notes and then slowly expand the musical vocabulary until they're reading the following notes, which I will show on the screen. First of all, most music has 2 staffs linked together. Each of them have a different symbol. The one on the top is called the treble clef, aka the G clef, just based on the shape. And then the bottom symbol is called the bass clef, nicknamed the F clef. You need a little bit more imagination to visualize the F there. Everything on the top line in the treble clef represents the right hand, and everything on the bottom line, represented by the bass clef, represents the left hand. So all the notes written in these bottom lines are going to be played by your left hand. You'll notice that each staff has 5 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4. These are all of the different spots that the notes on the piano can go. You'll see that some of these notes are drawn on lines, like this one, and this one, and this one, and some of them are in the spaces like these ones. But if you do some basic math, you can quickly see that if each staff only fits 5 lines and 4 spaces, that equals 9. If you look at both staffs together, that equals 18. That's only room for 18 different notes, and most of you probably can see by looking at the piano, there's far more than 18 notes on a piano. A full-size piano has 88 notes. So how songwriters accomplish this is by going above and below the staff, and this note circled in the middle is an example of that. It no longer fits on the lines of the staff. It's got a line, but it's going outside of the bounds. The reason that I'm bringing this up is because the most important note that most kids learn in the beginning is middle C. And that's this guy right here. Remember middle C, the one that goes right in the middle of the keyboard? Well, it's actually called middle C because it goes in the middle of the 2 staffs. It sits right below the right-hand staff and right above the left-hand staff, and it's got this line going through it. This is one of the first notes that we teach because it's just really easy to identify. It looks very unique. Some children like to think of it as looking like Saturn. So if you can name middle C, you can easily figure out literally any other note on the staff if you know your alphabet. The next note up on a space would be D. And then the next note up on the line is E. And you'll notice when we go in a stepwise pattern, it alternates from a line to a space to a line to a space to a line and so on and so on. So that would be an F and that would be a G. But the most important thing for you to know is that this note right here will always be middle C. It's never going to change. This note is always going to be E. That's never going to change. This is always going to be D. That's never going to change. It's not important that a piano student memorizes all of these right away, but they will want to memorize a few key notes, which is going to help them fill in the blanks. Every teacher and method book has a different idea on what are the important key notes to memorize, but you'll always need to know middle C. So if you memorize nothing else, memorize middle C, and then you can figure out all the others. And knowing middle C helps us figure out the left-hand notes also. All we have to do is figure out the alphabet, but this time the pattern is headed downwards, so we have to figure out the alphabet backwards. Because in the right hand, we're going up. You can kind of see things are moving in this general trajectory, but when we're going through these notes in the left hand, you can see they kind of have like a downward bent to them. So anytime the notes go down, so do the letters. All right, so I'm sure you can do this. What letter comes before C? If you said B, you can do your alphabet backwards. Then the next one lower, would be A. This is a little bit of a tricky one, this next one, because you got to think like to the other end of the music alphabet. But the next note would be G, right? Music alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So the link here going backwards is between A and G. And then you can keep going, F, E, D, C. So don't worry if you're not fast at reading these. You don't need to be fast. It's not about being able to sight read something perfectly. What you're mainly developing these skills for is just to kind of double check that your child is pressing the right keys when they're playing their piece, and to double check that they're using the correct hand. Sometimes children like to mix up their lefts and their rights in their hand positions. Okay, let's do a quick summary. There are 4 main types of rhythms, and time signatures tell you how many beats are going to be in every bar. There are 7 letters that we use to name the piano keys, A through G, and if you can find middle C, you're golden. Finally, there's a right-hand staff, and there's a left-hand staff, and they get joined together so that eventually the piano player can play with both hands at the exact same time. Not going to worry about that today. When notes climb up the staff, the letters go up. C, D, E, F, G. When notes climb down the staff, the letters descend. C, B, A, etc. Again, if you can remember where middle C goes, you're golden. And that is all for today's video. We covered the 3 most important basics, and you'll notice that the method books will often have other concepts that we didn't talk about in today's video, things like louds and softs and playing, but those concepts are pretty easy to understand, and honestly, like, your 6-year-old should be able to explain to you how it works once they've learned it from their teacher. So I hope you enjoyed this primer. Let me know if you have any suggestions for future videos or things that you're curious about, things that you're not, maybe you don't quite understand, or if you'd like me to do a second version of this video for maybe parents of students who are a little bit older. Thank you so much for watching. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next video. This is honestly like such easy math that 6-year-olds accomplish this without too much trouble. There was a lot of vehicle driving by. I'm just going to say that again.